Dylan, why don't you just give us a little sort of synopsis of you and your background to be a bit more accurate with it, and then we'll dive into your slides.
Yeah, totally. So, hi everyone. So last few years have been quite an exciting thing. I've actually been maybe a little bit more low key versus how I was before, if that's a surprise to anyone. So yeah, but my area of a specialism is digital marketing. I'm a marketing consultant, but I focus in organic strategies. That's predominantly what people are hiring me for, bringing me on to projects for, or having me consult on. So when I say organic, I mean, typically Google. How do I build my brand or business through Google? And SEO, search engine optimization, is typically what most people go for when they're working with me. The focus is getting your brand or business higher up on Google or just more visible to more people through the Google search engine. But it also expands into other areas as well. So, organic growth can also mean you're just getting more business from your existing customers and maximizing the reach without having to spend the typical money that you associate with online advertising. That's kind of what people are coming to me for. My background is not in marketing or advertising. When I was younger, I was in film and animation, studying production, and then I got, from an advertising module at university, I got taken into the ad world. At the time, online advertising, digital marketing was the hot thing, and it still continues to be the backbone of marketing, in my opinion. And yeah, flash forward 10 years, and I'm running a few different marketing companies that have their own niches, and Social 8 Brands is the one that's focused on retail.
Fantastic. Well, looking at LinkedIn Live, we're into double figures, Dylan. So I am going to remove our branding and switch to the slide. So, Dylan, the floor is all yours, sir.
Cool. So I'm not making this a boring presentation, but it is a bit more of an informative one, kind of like the newsletters that I've been doing recently as well. The whole point is to get you thinking about your business, your brand, and what can I be doing, and who do I need to bring in to grow it and take it to that next level. Those are the conversations that I like stimulating through whenever I do any of these type of talks. So these are the three companies I'm part of in the marketing space. So Social 8 Brands is the one that I'm representing here today. And it's me and two other directors, Tom Lee and Jason Marino Martinez, and we run Social 8 Brands. It's focused on retail. So we stripped everything else that you typically find in a marketing company, and we really have focused it on the retail experience for the customer, but also for the business and the brand. So it is retail focused. And by that, we mean Amazon is typically the biggest channel that we are doing the full marketing mix for. So we're working with the brand, getting it on board, doing the full digital marketing, the optimization of the listings, the advertising within the Amazon ecosystem, and then we are delivering sales results for the clients within Amazon. And that's not just the UK, US, Australia, Europe, Middle East. We're doing all the different Amazon channels, and obviously we're based out of our King's Cross office. But we also now Shopify partners as well. So Shopify Plus is is an already existing subscription service that Shopify have that's going to have a massive shakeup in the next 12 months. Stuff I can't really talk about on this call, but there is something spectacular coming with Shopify Plus. So we are partners with them, and Walmart is they're the owners of Asda, but they are now finally making their push into the UK next year, onboarding UK brands so that they can be distributed into Walmart US. And they've made that process a lot more slicker, and we're collaborating with them on working out how do we get that small medium business into the Walmart ecosystem, because the bigger players have their direct contacts into Walmart. We're focused on those medium companies that can still pack a punch. And then the final thing in Social 8 is that we also work out with international companies how to get them into the UK, typically how to get them Amazon ready. So we have our black book of contacts that we work with, and we sort out that UK company and logistics setup. so that you can fast track your business into Amazon here. They've got a little bit cagey with international companies selling within the UK and the US. So we had to basically, from the clients that we were getting, come up with a solution. Very quickly on the other two companies, Searchlight London is what most people know me for, and that is me as a technical SEO consultant. So technical SEO is all of the kind of the code behind a website that if you get it wrong, Google will penalize you for it, or it just won't acknowledge your website even exists. So technical, that's a very, very condensed version of what technical SEO is. Um, that's my main company that I've been working on up until this year. We also host websites and manage quite intricate databases for our clients. And because I have a good overview of SEO at large, I do a lot of organic growth strategy as well for clients. So again, as I was saying at the beginning, it's working out where does that client sit in the marketplace right now, where can they realistically go, and what do they need to implement in order to grow to that level. And finally, Dante's Inc. Is relatively new. I've not ever really actually spoken about it here. It's been around for many years, and I've come on board and it's a paid advertising agency that has a specialism in financial services. So that's kind of the area of specialism. It's very different to the others because the demands are different. And you can see a bunch of logos at the bottom. So we are, Google partners, Facebook, Meta partners, Microsoft, all of that stuff. We do work our butts off to make sure we've got those certifications. So that's kind of everything that I'm involved in when it comes to the marketing sphere. But this particular webinar is focused on next slide. There we go. The most important thing in online retail for the next 5 years. So this is what I think a lot of people are logging on for, and it's what we've been talking about maybe with the marketing of this webinar. And this is really informed by a lot of things that I've noticed with our clients across all three companies. We've got about 22 clients, and there's a commonality between all of them, and where we see those individual retailers needing to optimize in the next, definitely in the next year, but based on the information that we have over the next 5 years, and that is going to be, and this is the next slide, Google Shopping. So I'm not being paid by Google to do this webinar, but it's so. I mean,
Not
if
yet,
you
not
want, if
yet.
you want to throw a few Google bucks at my way, I mean, by all means do. But genuinely and objectively, Google Shopping is the most important thing to hit retail in the next 5 years. It doesn't mean it's going to be the only important thing. I'm pretty certain other retailers are going to punch Google right back. But the Google for Retail sub brand, it's just so it's so well thought out. That's probably the right word. They've really haven't wasted time, and they've had many years to kind of fine tune what the product is. So I'm just going to go through what it is. But if you do the next slide, Miles. So Google Shopping is an ecosystem, and I call it a disruptor. And I'm just going to explain a little bit here where it's come from. So you may have come across it before. It's Google Product Search, or it was called Google Products, and at one point it was called Frugal, a play on Google and being literally frugal. And what it is that when you type in a product, a brand into Google, you see before you would just see the organic listings. Now what you see is product information, price comparison. You see local stores near you that are, potentially selling the product only 1 mile down the road. You're seeing so much more information about where you can buy that product. And that is entirely driven by Google Shopping. If you're using Google, of course, if you're using Bing, then it has its own thing. But Google is ubiquitous. It is, in the UK, I think 84% market share. So
I mean, Dylan,
yeah,
let's ask our viewers, right? I mean, does anyone use Bing?
it's
Like,
got a market.
yeah, I guess that. I wonder in reality who is, and
Well,
are there any others out there that you think are worthy of mention?
in terms of search engines, well, they're either typically powered by Google or powered by Bing. So you have
Right.
like DuckDuckGo, which I believe is a reskin of Bing anyway. So it is effectively the same search engine with a little bit of extra, well, things removed actually in the terms of um, Bing. But one thing that's kind of Bing has, and this is a tangential, and we're going to have this over the next 45 minutes, so I'll rein it in when it gets too much. Bing actually have a program that could kind of boost their user base. It's a rewards program that's tapped into your Microsoft account. So I actually get, like, for every 500 websites I visit through Bing, I get points, and I can buy Xbox games with those points, or I can pay off I have Xbox Game Pass. So the more I use Bing, I get Xbox Game Pass for free.
Okay.
So there are weird, like, incentives that way, but it's not something that's on, like, mass scale. So Bing is there. I actually do like Bing a lot for certain things. But Google is just, at the end of the day, the monopoly, the market leader. And because it's the market leader, it has all this insight. So these figures are up to date as of October. So Google, of course, are going to say online is more critical than ever for retail, but the proof is in the pudding. Um, 88 to 92% of all UK purchases in 2021 uh, that had an online research component to them. So nobody's just going into the shop and buying willy-nilly. They're researching the brand, and all the business, or an element of online search has played a role. And Google is in 56% of all UK purchase decisions. So that's the biggest by miles.
Mm.
But the problem that Google had was that people weren't using Google itself for price comparison, or they weren't using it to see if this was a good deal. Actually, in the UK, Amazon plays that role. You will see it if you go around Tesco and have a look. People have a phone in their hand, and they may be searching a product, and they are literally doing a comparison. Is this cheaper than Amazon, or is this cheaper here in person? And that's actually driven a lot of competition Google's way. They need to be punching as much of packing as much of a punch when it comes to that online research, because the reality is Amazon is also an e-commerce. So if they are cheaper, you can just buy it there and then. Google doesn't quite have that, so it needed to compensate. TikTok is another area as well that is a big, you wouldn't think so, but it's a big competition driver for Google. Because TikTok is, as of last week, the only online platform with the advertising hasn't had a hit in the last quarter. So it kind of, younger people are using TikTok. They are using TikTok for product consideration and online research, and eventually that younger market are going to be the ones that all the advertisers are going to be focusing on. The Gen Zs have to be marketed to at some point. I think up until now, most marketing agencies just ignore it because it's a counterculture. I'll talk in a minute about that. So one thing about Google Shopping is across the entire ecosystem, and I'm going to show a couple of things of how they manage that. And the beauty of it is, because there's a CSR aspect to it, they don't want the EU to come and slap them. Um, Google actually give a lot for free when it comes to Google Shopping. So that's probably the magician's mask being lifted off. Uh,
CSR, for those that don't know.
Oh, corporate social responsibility. So, yeah, sorry I'm using a bit of lingo there. Look, I don't run a PPC agency, so I have no issue telling you, like, you don't always have to be paying for the clicks.
Yeah.
Which is the bit that's a bit naughty to say, but that's the reality as well. Look, at the end of the day, people are hiring me to find the best path to market, right? And online. So at the end of the day, I've got to deliver value to clients. So that's the big secret that very few people are talking about, and I will talk in a second actually on how that is. And finally, Google Shopping is ready for Gen Z. So Gen Z is people under the age of 26, 25, and then from their teens. It's the next generation. So I'm a millennial, so it's kind of the next step in the marketing targeting, because most people want to hit younger, because once you build that brand loyalty, you've got a customer for 40 years, So if you get them while they're young, then that's a lifelong customer for your brand. If you want to do the next slide. Cool. So just a little bit, a slide here in Gen Z, because I came across this on Google's market planning B2B website. And it was just a slide on there. I thought it was quite interesting. So Gen Z is a counterculture to chuggy millennials, and chuggy is a word from TikTok. It just kind of demonstrates the difference between a millennial and a Gen Z, and why Google Shopping is really prioritizing brands and trust. So Chugi is a millennial that cares more about the lifestyle that something gives off, like the perception of a lifestyle, rather than whether the product is actually the best. Whereas Gen Z, and this is all based on Google's own insights, they value honest, reliable information. They prefer trusted brands that have a proven track record over trends. And when it comes to Google, they it's really important that the information Google gives them is trustworthy, and that kind of anchors a lot of the decisions behind shopping, and why it's a little tricksy. But the reason why is because Google Shopping needs to be the definitive truth, and that's kind of how Google wants it to be. So, because the market they're going for value that over anything else, even over price sometimes. So, that's kind of the backbone of a lot of this Google Shopping malarkey that I'm going to be talking about.
I think that's quite nice to hear, Dylan. Really, that's a little bit of an assurance in this world of fake news, if you like, that they are sort of focused on this.
Yeah,
On
and it's kind of it sucks that it takes capitalism to get truth out of platforms, but it pays the bills, right? I guess that's
Yeah,
the rationale behind it.
sure.
So yeah, so this is, I mean, if you can see the, you can't zoom in, guys, but if you look closer to the screen, this is an example of Google Shopping in action. So when you type in a brand or product, you are suddenly seeing these square images and reviews and information about the product and where you can buy it, and that is the backbone to the Google Shopping experience. Everything is anchored in something called Merchant Center, and so Merchant Center is basically a relatively new versus traditional Google Ads, or at least the new version of Merchant Center is relatively new, where you upload a product feed. You can either create it within Merchant Center, or you work with a developer or an SEO, such as myself, to create that product feed. And what it does is it synchronizes all of your products that are available on your eShop or your physical store. And that's a critical difference, as we were saying at the very beginning, is not entirely online. If you have a business that has no online presence, you can still have a product feed. You just need to make sure you're on top of your inventory, and when you say you've got this product in the store, you have that product in the store. There is that aspect of it, and again, truth. How they Google prefers that is if it's a trusted, you have a trusted inventory management um, platform, and that's synchronizing the product feed. They don't want you bringing people into your store and you don't actually have the product that they were looking for. Um, that's kind of the critical thing that you need to do at Merchant Center is put a feed up with real time information on the products. But you also need to opt in to the different programs that Google has. So, for example, reviews. You need to be open to uh, Google customers leaving your business a review. You need to be open to your products having reviews, and ultimately, you need to just be as full with information as possible in those listings. So when you have a yellow chair, you can't just put yellow chair. You need to talk about the material being made, if it how it's delivered, shipping. It needs to have all of that information in place, because if you don't have it, you've got a bit of an empty, soulless listing, right? So you need to flesh it out fully. And the beauty of Google Merchant Center is that it uses the SEO that you may already be doing on your website to just amplify each of those listings. So the same sort of way that I would be optimizing that yellow chair to show up for, bright yellow single chair, made of leather. I don't think it's leather, but let's just say that. The same way I'd be optimizing that listing to be in Google, you'd be doing that with the feed. Now, this is the bit that most people haven't actually talked about, and it's the next slide. If you do all of this well with your feed, Google Shopping, as of right now, will reward you with free ads. So this is called free listings, and these free listings appear on a load of different Google sections of Google. So Google Search, which is the main search engine, Google Shopping, which should have a second P in there, or shopping, as I put it. But I noticed these things first. So Google Images, which is obviously if people, again, let's say the yellow chair. Someone types in yellow chair, they like your image, they click on it, they plan to just right click and download it. Google will serve a free ad underneath saying, if you like this chair, you can buy it from dylansfurniturestore.com, right? Google Maps is another area. If you've got a physical store and they search for a product, and I don't know the scenario where that would happen, but you may see that this product is in the building 2 roads away from you. They do give that away for free as well. YouTube is another area that you can get free ads on. And if you have a YouTube channel, you can tag products from your Merchant Center product feed, and they will be freely advertised, within the video or in the section underneath the video. And then two that are fairly new integrations, Google Lens. If I take a photo of something, Google may show a free ad underneath where you can buy it. And Google Assistant is if you ever use, Google Assistant, it can show your product as well. These are no cost. As long as you've done everything right, they're not a cost. And if you can see on that diagram there, you have the ad, you type in Google phone, it shows you a couple pixels, which are the ads, and then the section underneath is where you get the free listing, so to speak. So it's huge visibility. In fact, uh, the free ad sometimes shows above the regular Google ads and the SEO.
Okay,
So
so this is your secret top tip for everyone today.
top tip, dry my mouth out. It's a secret top tip. Like, actually look at this. Do you have a product inventory system for your eShop or your physical store? And if you don't, okay, look, have a chat with me, but go and do your research as well. Look up Google Shopping. Even look Google Shopping plus the word free. You'll find all the information there, and you can make the informed decision. Is this worth me doing? I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, yeah, it is probably worth doing.
Mm.
Even if it's only 2 or 3 sales a day, that's 2 or 3 sales a day more than you had before. So
Absolutely, and I think it obviously strikes me as because this is so new that Google are pushing it, as it were.
yeah,
And we know with big tech, if they start to get a head of steam behind something, it will happen. And
yeah,
something that occurred to me while listening to you there, Dylan, about Gen Z or Z, depending on which part of the world you're from, is that if they are going into the sort of the minutiae or maybe the ethical sourcing of said yellow chair, then
yeah,
it makes sense to add the description about maybe the CO2e that was involved in the manufacture and delivery of said chair, or the more, I guess what you're trying to say, I think, is that the more information you provide for your product, the more chance you've got of when someone searches for a specific question
yeah.
that your product will get pulled up as the answer, right?
Exactly, and this is something quite important for vegan brands actually at the moment. So we've got a couple over the last 2.5 years. I've worked with a few different vegan brands on positioning their SEO, and some of them actually haven't even got to this stage yet, just where they are in terms of they're still getting funding before they can do something like this en masse. But it's absolutely critical because what's the difference between two different burgers? It's the process, it's the ingredients,
Mhm.
it's where it's made. And even in many cases, more so, vegan brands are having a bit of an issue in that traditional branding, as you do, Miles, doesn't quite work the same way as it would have if it, with an older generation. Because again, as I said, they're not really sold on, oh, if I eat this, I'm gonna suddenly, be
Yeah.
shirtless on the beach. Where it's not gonna happen. That type of ad doesn't work with Gen Z, so to speak.
Yeah.
But what would work is if you say the cows fart less when we when we
Yeah.
do this, because whatever, like that kind of stuff is not intangible, but it just hasn't had the same research into it. So
And
Google have put a lot of yeah.
if you're playing buzzword bingo today, cows fart less, I think it's gonna score
And
high.
the thing is, absolutely, you're gonna laugh on this. How that came up this morning, I was reading ft.com, and JP Morgan put an ad in front of me, and literally it was about cows farting. So I was just like,
Wow.
it was trying to pitch investment into vegan burgers, and it was like it did explain it, but it was
Yeah,
explaining how it's good for the environment. I was like, okay,
it
fine.
definitely
uh,
got your attention.
Go grab my attention. Next, yeah.
We've got a question that's coming from Justin. He says, anything we can do for a service industry? Because obviously you're talking about products. So I
Yeah,
know that Justin's a mortgage advisor. So
yeah.
is there a sort of a service based arm to this?
Unfortunately, not for Google Shopping. Google Shopping, you need to have a barcode basically on the product, and
Okay.
when there is and it needs to be somewhat automated, right? So the thing with the mortgage advice is that you're going to be hands on. You're involved. You're having conversations. You need to do so much due diligence, and it's a complicated industry right now at this precise moment. So you couldn't, slap a barcode on it and have it off the shelf kind of version of it. They wouldn't allow that anyway with shopping. But some of the stuff like SEO, yeah, you can, because I mean, this is not really in the scope of this, but you really want to emphasize with your own website kind of what sets you apart, any sort of niches that you cover, that you focus in, and then you do your full content strategy and how to get eyeballs onto it. It's just not going to be within Google Shopping.
Yeah.
But as Miles said there, you want to flesh out on those product or services pages as much information as possible, because it just increases the chances of people discovering you when you're on Google, or even on Bing. And in fact, actually, if you want to think with Bing has a ridiculously disproportionate larger number of older white men that work in Canary Wharf. So um,
Don't
it's like
ask him how he knows that.
it's I know it's a fact that they told me, and then they told me when I went to Victoria and a few years ago, and then they were just like, yeah, it's great for financial sector, and it's great for
Okay.
like that place, because and the reason why is because they use Edge browser and they don't change the default browser,
Yeah, they just don't change it. Yeah.
and in fact 9 times out of 10 they probably can't tell whether they're using Google or Bing anyway. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. There is a reason behind it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Understood.
uh,
Would you like next
yeah,
slide,
go
please,
for
Mr.
it.
Hancock?
So look, everything up until now is stuff that's free. But the thing is, if you're seeing success through Google Shopping, and this is how they get people into their advertising. Because believe it or not, Google's primary business is still advertising. It's Google Ads. Like I feel they don't give it enough focus or attention, because it's kind of um, it's not as buzzy as VR and AR and mixed reality and all
The metaverse, don't forget.
metaverse, quantum computing is another thing that Google are pushing out quite aggressively. Great, like new stuff gets new investors. I get that, but Google Ads still pays your bills. So I think it does need a little bit more respect in that sense. And Performance Max is this. It is again like Google Shopping. It's quite ubiquitous across most of the Google platforms, and it taps directly into Google Shopping. So Performance Max is where Google will aggressively you set who your customer is. You can use data from your website. Your analytics can tell Google this is either the type of customer I have, or this is exactly the customer that is my customer. And it can quite aggressively across YouTube, uh, websites, Google search, the apps, Gmail, the whole lot, show ads for your business. So how this works with Google Shopping is, if you know a certain product is selling organically 2 or 3 units a day, and you fancy 20 to 30 units a day, and you have the budget for it, slip in 5, 10, 20 quid. Obviously, you got to make it work, and it will just amplify that free listing. Basically, that's the business model behind Google giving away the free listings. If you like what you're getting, give us a fiver. We'll get more people to your website. So that's Performance Max is the preferred way of doing that. There are a few other ways you can also advertise your retail products, within Google Shopping. But Performance Max works well when you've got a brand that's had miles looking at it. Has the it knows what it is. It's got its logo. It's got its messaging. You've got a YouTube channel. You've got the full works so that you can touch point with all of your potential customers across the whole mix. Um, I think there's another slide that's related to it. Yeah, this I wasn't sure whether I actually wrote this or not. Everything funnels to your point of sale and your conversion. So that's the beauty of having a product feed, where in that feed you definitively say, "This is where I get a conversion. This is where we make money." All of those ads that you would be doing on Performance Max can funnel into that product or into where you make your conversion. So that's good because it means less. As someone who's worked at agency and you'd have like loads of different departments doing loads of different things, but within the same sort of platform, it's good to have it unified. It actually means it's one person can see if the campaign's working rather than 20 different people. And as brands are going to be tightening their pocket again, and bringing things in house again, so it is this is quite a useful thing if you have a young junior that's been tasked with sort us out on Google. It does solve that out. Oh, Mars, can you see me?
Yep.
Yeah, my browser is just 1 second.
I can
Yeah,
still
there
see
we are.
you,
Oh, there
and
we are. So it just flashed white, and I was like, "Oh, no." Now the other thing as well with Google Shopping, and search, is that, you can be reactive to people searching for your brand. If they type your product in, you can show up. But if they ever visited your website in the last 90 days, you can also, go back and pull them in with perhaps a unique offer or just simply reminding them that they visited your website within the last 3 months. There was a lot of talk on Google getting rid of cookies, or Apple actually kind of blocking the cookies. This is a way of circumventing that. If you make sure that you have the Google tracking on everything, it can keep track of that customer, whatever they did on your website. Of course, if they bought something, you don't want to remarket the same thing they just bought. So you can have a little bit more advanced. You can say the add-on pack is what they start getting remarketing to, or the next model you just plan in advance. In 2 years' time, I'm gonna remarket this and say, you bought the last one, this is the new version. Just give you an example there. The thing as well is that it fuels online and offline customer journeys. And that offline thing is something. Okay, look, the digital marketing me, I mean the online marketing me, is focused on online marketing, but I still go and buy stuff from physical shops. So I don't do Tesco online order either, to be honest. So if there's a way of doing increasing offline foot traffic, this is a great way as well. And you can keep tabs. You can know when we ran that ad, we saw more people locally where the ad was showing popping into the store. You just need to be on top of that data collection. And the final thing is that it's cost effective versus other channels because you're only really paying when someone actually gives two hoots about your brand and clicks through and potentially buys the product. You're not just showing to everyone everywhere. You're actually quite focused with who you're showing your product to, and right now, it's quite competitively priced. That Google's not stupid. It knows that people have got tighter purses at the moment. So they've come down a lot of cost per clicks and the like. Uh, but you've just got to make sure you plan properly, you budget appropriately. If you can't afford to be spending £1,000 on Google Ads, don't spend £1,000 on Google Ads. Do five, £10, £100, and then as you're getting those conversions, as long as you've got everything set up, Google will start doing kind of auto funnels and it will just scale those. So as you increase the budget to £1,000 potentially, one week, it will know how to get conversions for you because at the end of the day, Google wants you to come back and then spend £2,000 and then spend £3,000. Like it's very logical. But the problem that I have a lot of people when you bring up Google advertising is they're like, oh, we tried that once and it just sucked up all our budget. Yeah,
yeah.
like if it will do that if you didn't plan properly. If you started with £1,000 rather than £10, of course it's going to happen because it doesn't
Yeah,
know what. It's just going to throw things on the wall and see what sticks, right?
I think right, to use your analogy, throw things at the wall and see what sticks. What I find a lot of people do is they throw everything they've got at the wall, and then they've got nothing to rethrow, if that makes sense, and they
Yeah,
don't know which bit stuck. So um, I'm building you up here to sort of answer it positively, but
yeah,
I think it's always important to use tools like Google Analytics to track your customer journey and how they're interacting with you.
yeah,
If that can be sort of integrated into the CRM, so you know everything's talking to each other, the
yeah,
more knowledge is power, right? And data is king. So if you can be quite meticulous with your analysis of your successes, you're able to then tailor things a lot cleaner and sharper going forward. It's a listen, modify, and test approach. That
yeah.
takes quite a while, Dylan, right?
It can, but then sometimes there are things that just haven't been looked at. So this is not me pitching me, but this is why, at least consulting with someone who's got a few years experience is worthwhile. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen every type of client under the sun, agency with bigger players, and then independently the last 7 years. And I'm going to bore you with a bunch of them, but some people just bring me in for a half day or just even for a couple of hours. Can you just look over analytics and just is it tracking things, blah blah. Very little things like that, but the reality is they have massive impact. I'll give you an example. I have a client that 2 years ago I just flicked a switch on analytics, but that's 2 years later. That client has come to me and has said, "Oh, can you pull this data for us on who's visiting the website, what our most searched products are?" Because they're transitioning into a more of a market orientated company, so they want to go to where their customers actually want them to go. And if I hadn't flipped that switch, it wouldn't be tracking any of this in analytics.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
such a simple thing, but it gets missed because you just don't think it's important.
Mhm.
And they've got 2 years of data and 400,000 visitors worth of data that they didn't have 2 years ago, and they've been around for a while as a website. So that's just an example of yeah, like there's so much that you can use. You just need someone who understands where it is and has the time to look at it. And if you don't have the time, bring in somebody, because the reality is, and I say this point blank. Like if bringing in SEO consultant or a search consultant, or and that doesn't pay for itself, then something's gone wrong with the consultant you brought on. Like
Mm.
I have clients that make 25x off of every hour of me. So like it's a bit of a, if the search consultant doesn't come up with something that actually works, then it's not.
I
It's a
know.
bad case for me. You know what I'm saying?
I
It's
do.
like
I do. Look, this is something that we come across as consultants. We come across all of the time. People think that they can do it themselves and that it's not that hard. And what I would just say to people is actually, in a weird kind of way, you're not paying for all the experience that we've learned or things we've learned across our career. Actually, you're paying for all of the mistakes that we've made along our career, which has meant that we've learned not to do those again. Right? It's a weird one. Get a specialist in to do a specialist job is what I'd
exactly.
always
It's
recommend.
like if you wouldn't do the plumbing in your house by yourself, so
Well, you
I
know
don't
what? A lot of people bloody do, and
know.
guess how that ends up.
I mean, I'm not incompetent, but like I don't like draining the things because the draining the radiators, because
You
as the
don't.
water starts coming out, it's just like, no, wait, I'll just
Well,
wait
it's
for
a little
the.
bit like using Justin to sort your mortgage out for you. You could go to your bank and get it done nice and easy, but Justin, with all his experience, will be looking at the whole of market and finding a product that perhaps wouldn't even be on the bank's radar. He's
Yeah,
he's working for you, not the bank working for itself, as he.
yeah, and that's the same thing, and actually maybe more with definitely with Shopify actually. So we're there's a lot of things that just aren't public yet, and someone like myself is a partner. I'm actually incentivized to bring people into the Shopify ecosystem, which you're not really meant to talk about, but I don't care, I'll just say. So and the reason for that in return is like we have access to things that won't be public until even 2024, just because they've had a
Wow.
bit of a staff reshuffle.
Yeah.
So you might be going across a website, oh, that's really cool, oh, it's Shopify, but then unless you're working with somebody who's on the inside, you don't have access to it. And it's the same with Amazon as well. So we have a very good relationship, and that's kind of come out of the fact that we're very persistent. So most Amazon resellers kind of, they just use the chat or they use the email, but we're quite aggressive with we go and find the people. Not that we've gone and ambushed them in the streets or Covent Garden or anything, but like we could, because we do take stuff that seriously with our clients. So when you have that, some people who have that access, so to speak, or work towards that access, that's what you're also investing in. Somebody whose job is to care. You know.
Correct. Correct.
So
Well, I know we're getting towards the end now, so there is always a little bit of a lag with you typing in your question and them appearing, if you like, over the internet. So please get them in. But Moidrag has given us a question, Dylan, which perhaps I
yeah,
think is the right time to answer it. So
mhm,
he says, "What do you think about gamification?" Gamification. So I
yeah.
suppose making games about things as a core motivation driver for consumers to commit certain actions during their customer journey in the retail industry.
Yeah. All right. So I have kind of two thoughts on that. So the first is kind of the more straightforward gamification. It's where you maybe in physical you buy a coffee from Costa and they'll stamp your card, or
Yep,
Nando's points if you go and have chicken there.
the loyalty
Like
programs.
fine, it's like a loyalty card, but maybe there's a gamification aspect to it, and that's totally fine. And that's there. Online, it's not quite translated the same way. I feel like I don't think it's something that's been cracked yet by any online retailer, because over Black Friday, and I can't name the company, I've definitely got them on LinkedIn, so maybe I won't say them, but like awful, god awful gamification of their website, because it wasn't even clear what the price was. It
Mm,
was to renew like web they have a you can buy templated websites from them, which are great for landing pages, right? And it was not even clear, and I genuinely checked like 3 or 4 times what the price was, because it was gamification. So the more people that bought it, the cheaper the end product would be. And nah, that doesn't click with me as a
mm.
customer. I'd rather it was a bit more binary. There's a price, that's what I paid, Bob's your uncle, right? I do think there is a way of creating a loyalty scheme that works very well. I think PayPal, they bought Honey, which is the normally shows you voucher codes as you're browsing and buying online, but the backbone of it now is not so much the voucher code; it's that you get points and you accumulate points if you're using Honey or PayPal within an online transaction. That kind of works quite well. It's not really the e-store; it's the card provider, the payment system. But something of that within an e-shop, yeah, is good. Amazon have charitable gamification, which I've definitely talked about somewhere else on LinkedIn Live years ago. Basically, the same I was there. I did talk about it once. So if you look me up, maybe you'll find it. Where I think they give a cut of every sale of their commission, basically off of the product,
Mm.
to a charity of your choice. So mine's Barnardo's, and I know every year Barnardo's is getting about 200 quid off of my family, basically, of all our Amazon
Yeah,
purchases.
I think what I'll chip in here with Dylan is that thinking about seasonality,
Mhm.
because I think with any sort of game, you don't want it to drag on too long or for it to become ubiquitous. So,
Yeah,
as an example, Cafe Nero through their app at the moment, they do a Christmas cracker.
yeah,
And I would say what I think about gamification is you have to make it really simple, right? For people
hmm
to A, get involved, and B, know what the outcome is.
yeah.
And you either win free stamps or free coffee or you get a joke or whatever. But there's that anticipation of the cracker opening on your screen, which I think
Yeah.
works really well.
And look, I don't have this as any sort of concrete info on here, but I don't think it's something that Google ever kind of give any preference to. I think it's something that is really driven by paid campaigns and kind of your social marketing, and yeah, obviously I'm focused on the SEO side of things predominantly. So it's not something that you, because there's a seasonality aspect to it as well. It will come and go by the time it's properly indexed.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, unless you're like Monopoly, Monopoly McDonald's thing, which is
yeah.
every year. So Yeah, it does work. I mean, what I'd say is that it's more for it's more for re-engaging your existing customers.
Mm.
I mean, you already
Yeah.
would have, had a Big Mac if you were gonna have it. The monopoly thing is not gonna convince you to finally cave in with a Big Mac. It's it's just to get you to come back to McDonald's when it's a bit
Yeah,
less.
or for you to add fries or a drink on because you get another little bit or whatever, isn't it?
And you're
Yeah,
not
that's
going, and if they give you free fries, you're not going to McDonald's just for free fries because it's
correct.
like, yeah, the petrol won't even cover it, like, it's like kind of, but
I
there's
think
a reason.
what I would add to my drag here and his question is this: always start off with your target market in mind, right? So the more detail you can pull on who exactly you're trying to talk to, the more specific you can make your game or your interaction
Yeah,
with them.
cool.
Would you like the last slide?
Yeah, go for it. Hey, it's just literally me.
Hey!
So, yeah, no, there's like, because a lot of people actually, since I've been saying just DM me. I think a lot of people are doing it. I've had like 10 conversations last week. So add me on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn. For some reason, I think it maybe I don't know. The follow is the default now. So follow me and then add me into connection.
Yeah,
Definitely love to have a
I
chat with.
think the follow thing is automatic if you are a content creator.
Fine.
Or if you've got more than I think 1,000 or a couple of thousand connections already, then there's that sort of
Fine.
default that you follow automatically. But you can go in and you can still connect with people if you
Yeah,
want to. And
fine.
I'd
Yeah.
always urge you to connect because
Yeah.
that's what love is. Yeah.
Definitely connect with me, and although brands at Social 8 also comes over to me, it's also Dylan at Social 8. For me, kind of, just in terms of companies that probably a good should be looking at this type of um, Google Shopping. You've already got a product, brand, a customer. You've done the foundational stuff for your business because where you kind of start um, pissing off Google is if you chop and change what your business is, the products you're selling,
Mhm.
um, and the like, and that's even the same with SEO. Like, you wouldn't want to. You only invest in your website when that level of investment when it's going to be concrete for a few years. I've had plenty of times where maybe they've started the work a little bit too early and they've actually not really finished product development, even though they think they have.
Mhm.
So it's kind of this is where collaborating with other marketing companies as well is very good because those people focus on getting the product to the finish line for them, and then I focus on that finished product and getting it to market.
Well,
Uh,
Dylan, what I will say to you right now, and I mean we know each other really well, right? But
yeah.
I'd thought that this conversation was going to be quite focused around Amazon specifically,
Mhm.
right? As that's where I thought this was going,
Yeah.
and I hadn't even given any thought to Google Shopping. And
Yeah.
I have a customer who already said to me that they weren't interested in being on Amazon,
Hmm.
but their product would be very much suited to Google Shopping. So
Yeah.
that's a conversation I'm going to have with them.
Definitely. And here's the thing as well. Google Shopping can integrate with most online shop, your official website. Like you're not
Mhm.
doing it through Amazon. You're not doing it through another proxy.
Yeah,
It's your own website. So it's your own data essentially
nice.
within reason. Like it's still you. It's still using the Google suite of products, but you have more control over that, and you're not paying Google a commission either. You're
Mm,
paying obviously if you're going to have the ads on. So it's just a little bit more control, and it's a little bit more. If you've got a business that's already doing at least 250K a year online, that's a good kind of barometer. Google Ads is a no-brainer. If
mm.
you're smaller, but you've got a niche product that it's kind of got its market online, it's still worth exploring. So I'm definitely message me, email me. Love to have that conversation. And actually, if you have clients just what yourself that uh, you know maybe haven't thought about Google Shopping, again, exactly as you're saying there, Miles, they've just not really thought about it because it's something that they didn't realize existed. It's worth having that chat. So yeah, we still obviously do all of the other marketing channels, but the main thing really is pushing these new areas and new opportunities for our clients.
Okay, well, we're just under our hour, which is
Mhm.
nice. I can see there's still a few people on, so I know Dylan's pretty expensive. So if you wanna, if you wanna get a bit of free advice, get your questions in now
I
before we
Yeah,
wrap this
I
up.
would.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, yeah, I don't wanna add to that. Yeah, no, no, it's look, at the end of the day, like, literally, I because you're in the business, you're basically in the business, so I know exactly how much my clients are making. So it's a bit of
Okay.
a kind of like, yeah, you kind of, if you're a smaller company, then we work something that works within your budget. But yeah, so yeah,
Well,
maybe.
Raj has commented saying, "Great presentation, valuable insight." Well, of course, yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised by that. Um, lots of value there, and certainly, I'm intrigued about this Google Shop and how they get behind that, and certainly a good opportunity to get on the sort of the ladder early, if you like, be an early
Yeah.
adopter to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, they're Google's a bit, they have a lot of products that sometimes they just don't give any attention to. So I'm a bit seldom ever kind of mention some of their kind of more experimental things.
Hmm.
This is working really well, so I don't see them shuttering it, because it's been around for the last 15 years. So I would actually kind of say this is something worth investing in, a bit of time in. And if you don't have that time, yeah, that's kind of the initial. Okay, either work out how to get that time or bring in someone who does have that time. That's kind of the. I always say this with other marketers, especially in our networking groups. Like, my best friend is time. It's something that nobody else has, but I make sure I have an abundance of it.
Yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right. Anna Torres Walker, who I know is in the lovely Ibiza, she's saying he's worth his money, probably. And then a sort of
Thank you,
a
Anna.
cheeky emoji there. And Justin saying very interesting with the Google Shop work. So
Yeah.
again, it's nice to sort of get that out there and be at the cutting edge.